Hello and welcome to Keep Right On, a Birmingham City podcast brought to you from us here at Birmingham Live. I'm Brian Dick and I'm joined as ever by my colleague and co-host Alex Dicken. How are you, Alex?
I'm good, thank you, Brian. Fresh from Blues 3-1 win to start pre-season. Yourself?
Yeah, very good. Fresh from my third attempt at the intro. So yeah, all good at this end. Thank you very much. Indeed, you've dropped it there, Alex. Obviously, there was a Blues played their first pre-season game out in Portugal against Sevilla, a 3-1 victory. Lots to pick out of that. There's also some transfer news we're going to get to, and also just looking, I think, briefly at a couple of years of where Knighthead have taken the club as well. So lots to chat about. Alex, let's get into Saturday. Two different teams, wasn't it? So should we just run through who the two teams were in terms of the first half and the second half for Blues?
Yeah, I'll do that then, Brian. I thought you were going to go straight in there. First half felt very last season, didn't it? So the only real change, well, two changes, were Neumann at centre-back and Zaid Biteka played as the number 10. So it was Olop in goal, right back Laird, Neumann, Clara, Cochrane, midfield of Peck and Awata, Willemsen off the right drifting in, Biteka as the 10, Anderson left and Stansfield up front. All change at half-time with James Beedle in goal, Gardner-Hickman playing right back, Bielik and youngster Billy Burrell playing at centre-back, Alfie Chang filling at left-back, fair play to him. Tommy Doyle and Mark Leonard in midfield, George Hall off the right, Lyndon Dykes in the 10, Briar Bateman off the left with Alfie May up front. We saw Brighter Side Samuel for 18 minutes. He came on for Tommy Doyle with Taylor Gardner-Hickman going into midfield, allowing him to play at right back. And also Cody Pennington, another youngster, came on for the final 5 or 6 minutes. So 24 players used in total. Actually, I've got my maths wrong there, haven't I, Brian? It was 23. Anyway, move on.
We shouldn't die on this hill, I don't think.
No, we shouldn't. Move on. But yeah, loads of players got to run out. Some players weren't involved. We weren't expecting Kanya Fujimoto to be involved. We'll come on to that a little bit later. And also Kyogo, still quite early into his pre-season. He wasn't involved of the players who travelled out to Portugal for the camp. But, you know, a pretty worthwhile run out, Brian. You know, first half especially, very good. 2-0 up at half-time. Blues completely dominant of the game. Second half, they had to dig in a little bit. It was a better Sevilla team second half. They had some good players on the field, including Rafa Mir, who was a big money signing from Wolves a few years back, and a couple of others. So they seemed to be stronger after half-time. Blues were stronger before half-time. That's just the way these things shape up. But Blues, very professional. I think Chris Davies did know after the game that Blues are ahead of Sevilla in terms of their pre-season preparation. They're 2.5 weeks in. So they looked a bit fitter and sharper, and they definitely did. They were better.
Yeah, I think he said Sevilla are only in their first week or at the end of their first week as well, weren't they? So as ever, pre-season doesn't mount to a whole hill of beans, does it? There were some interesting things there, as you said. Do we read anything into Olop's selection? Are we looking at the first half team as the first team, and the second half team as the people that maybe got shirts to win? That's simplistic? It probably is at this stage, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, because the first half team is what we know and what Chris Davies played last season. Largely, I think you could airdrop a couple of the new signings into that number 10 position where Biteka played very well. But other than that, that is kind of the 11, isn't it? Neumann's come in to replace Ben Davies. Apart from that, nothing else has changed. So it's just who replaced Kieran down in that 10 position. And it's just down to those players to force their way in, isn't it? The most interesting thing for me, Brian, was that we spent a podcast last week talking about maybe Blues could change a little bit of the new signings. Some of them are giving a bit of tactical flexibility. And then we kind of caveated it all at the end by saying, but hang on, they probably are going to be what they've spent 12 months doing already. And they weren't they? They were exactly the same. There were little tweaks here and there, but in terms of system and structure, they were exactly what they were last season.
One of the little tweaks, and a really interesting tweak, obviously, was, as you said, Phil Neumann coming in, which had a bit of a knock-on for Christoph Clara, didn't it? In that Clara effectively, can we describe him as the left-sided centre-back? It's not quite that easy, is it? But started on the left of Neumann.
Yeah. Without wanting to be smug, Brian, I'm hoping Chris Davies listened to my suggestion on the podcast last week about this.
I'm sure he's good.
Yeah, exactly. Playing Neumann as the right centre-back. It means nothing on the face of it when you look at the back four, does it, Brian? But when it's becomes that back three in possession. Neumann switches across and becomes the right-sided centre-back. It allows Clara to be in the middle, and obviously Alex Cochrane's on the left of it. So it just means that Clara, who's not the fastest player, as we all know, isn't isolated in wide positions, which he was at times last season. We saw mainly the Wycombe game at the start of the season when there were still teething issues where Clara was exposed by Sadlier, who was a rapid winger. There'll be better wingers than that in the Championship. You don't really want him out there, do you? Whereas Neumann, very athletic, quite quick, played it quite well.
Yeah, indeed. And also, that was a role that Christian Bielik took a little bit, wasn't it? When he played on the right back, he was kind of the right-sided centre-half when the width was on the left from the side of defence. Neumann seems to, have that slot nailed down. Difficult to tell or take too much from, his first 45 minutes in the blue shirt, but it was largely positive, wasn't it, from Neumann?
Oh, I really liked him. Yeah, I thought he was really good. His season, to be fair, ended a little bit late, so he might still be a bit sharper than some of the Blues players. But I thought he was excellent, not just in the way that he's kind of got the athleticism to recover and back up Clara when he's slightly high or out of position or whatever. The way he was on the ball was excellent. The way he brought it out. There was one pass into Stansfield where he's driven through the middle and played a lovely ball into Stansfield, and they've got it out wide and kept the ball and just got moving quickly. There was one where he's probably committed 2 or 3 players and gone straight through the centre of the pitch, and he's obviously got the physicality to do that. So I really liked him. 6'4", good on the ball, strong in the air. There was only one kind of hairy moment where he's pinged a back pass at Ryan Allsop's midriff, but obviously naturally he controlled it very well and played out. So very good from Neumann.
Yeah, indeed. He was one of the players that we had down as impressed in that overall in the match. I think the guys that were impressed were largely sort of slightly weighted towards the first half team, which is understandable because they'll have had more continuity. There'll be better combinations. And they were against a weaker Sevilla 11 as well, as you've said. So Ryan Allsop was another one of those, wasn't he? Who just one very, very good save. Mm-hmm. Just so good with the ball at his feet again.
Just, as you said, Brian, outstanding with the ball at his feet. That's the big edge we think he's going to have on James Beedle this season. But with his hands as well. Chris Davies will always say goalkeepers have to be good with their hands first and foremost, and Ryan Allsop's made 2 good saves. One low down, quite comfortable, but he held on to it and didn't spill it, which is crucial. But the second save was outstanding. I think it was 2-0 at the time, wasn't it? So might have made for a different game second half had that got in. I'm talking about a pre-season friendly like it's important about score lines, but obviously it's not. A great save, really, really good save. Neumann was excellent, as we've spoken about. I really, really like Zé Bezeker. He was, I think he's 18 years old on his first pre-season camp because he wasn't there in Austria last year. This time last year it was Ramel Donovan, and I will come back onto that because I think that's a bit of a kind of, not a cautionary tale, but something for us to kind of take reference from. Bezeker was excellent. Carrying the ball through the middle was superb. Linked really well with Keshi Anderson. Tended to drift over to the left-hand side, which is natural because he plays that position quite a lot in the under-21s and has also played it coming through the ranks with Blues. So I really liked him. His ball carrying ability is really good. And I actually found it interesting that he was selected as the 10 because obviously Willem Willemsen was on the pitch as well, drifted in from the right-hand side. So maybe that suggests to us that Chris Davies wants to go with a more ball-carrying type as the natural 10 this season. So he's got potentially him and Stansfield dovetailing, which kind of feeds into the whole Kyogo thing, doesn't it? That Kyogo and Stansfield could swap positions and both players 9s, both players 10s on occasions. But Bezeker, really, really good. It'll be interesting to see whether he can last the test of pre-season, really. Ramel Donovan last year, very hot in the first 2 or 3 games, wasn't he? One of the main players for Blues at the start of pre-season. By the end of it, the signings had come in. He'd been phased out and he couldn't get into the squads at the start of the season and ended up going out on loan. So the question for Bezeker, or the challenge for Bezeker, is to last the test of pre-season and make sure that he's an option for Chris Davies going into the start of the season.
Yeah, indeed. Sorry, go on.
No,
I'm alive again now. Yeah, indeed. Inevitably, there does seem to be one player that you think, he's taken a big step forward in pre-season. A young player, and then ultimately the manager or whoever it is puts the foot on the ball and said, well, actually, still only a teenager. They probably do need to go and play first team football elsewhere before he entrusts them with a key role in a championship team. But just to say about Benteke, he's one of the favourites, isn't he, among the hierarchy at Blues of some of those young lads coming through. Benteke really is the sort of, I don't know if poster boy is overstating a little bit, but he feels like people there think he's the next cab off the rank.
Yeah, I think he's almost elevated above even someone like George Hall at the moment.
Yeah,
although I was quite happy to see George Hall get a run out in his position this pre-season. Last season, it felt like he was the kind of spare part who was never going to be kept all stick around and was stuck at right back or whatever in a few games and given minutes here and there. This year, given I think 40 minutes in one of his preferred positions off the right side, so as a 10, I was quite happy to see that. But yeah, as you said, Brian, Benteke, probably the leading Blues youngster, I reckon, at the moment. Brian Beekman, 17 years old, youngest member of the squad out in Portugal. Gets a lot of plaudits as well, and he was also on pre-season last year. I know he caught the eye of some of the hierarchy, so he's one to watch as well. I was quite impressed with him. I put him down on the list of players that impressed because I again left wing second half, carried the ball really well, won a free kick. I think won the free kick that Leonard scored. So yeah, a very interesting player, and I don't think with a 17 and 18-year-old in Bateman and Benteke, you're probably not going to be sending them out on loan, or might not be anyway. I think you'd probably keep them around and give them the first team experience at this age.
Another two first teamers that sort of showed up well, Ethan Laird, and I don't know if you mentioned Keshi Anderson while I was dying. But Ethan Laird certainly. Laird's quite harshly treated by whoever put the highlights package together on the with Blues, because the run that he won the corner for the second goal didn't make it, but it was an impressive piece of play. So yeah, thoughts on Laird and Anderson?
How many players can do that? The volley that worked the goalkeeper for the corner that the Blues scored from. Good pick out by Clara to find him, but the sheer speed down that side and commitment really, because it ultimately is a right back, isn't he? And he was flying way beyond any other Blues player to get on the end of it. So a really good start for Laird, because he's got probably increased competition to a level that he's not had previously at Blues with the sign of Brightside Samuel. And we'll see more of him in pre-season. And Keshi Anderson just kind of carried up from where he left off last season. He just looks a really, really good player, fitted to the system perfectly. And watching that and how good Keshi Anderson was against a good Sevilla side with good players who play in the Liga every week, I did think, maybe Demarai Gray is going to have more of a battle than even I thought on his hands to get into the team. Not necessarily on ability, because Demarai Gray's played at a higher level than Keshi Anderson, but in the way that Anderson fits the system, he is the perfect system player and plays that position so well. So Gray's going to have to match that.
And if there is a Blues player with a bit of dog in him who was not going to step aside for a bigger name to take his shirt, it's going to be Keshi Anderson, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, indeed. And I think the other one to talk about is Mark Leonard. Obviously, the goal stood out in the second half. Great free kick, spotted the goalkeeper, just sort of cheating slightly to his left. And Leonard obviously found the top corner from there. Decent performance as well, though, to go with that.
I think so. Yeah, him and Doyle kind of, I wouldn't say controlled the game in the second half, but they kept it under control. Sevilla were having more of the ball and were largely the attacking team for probably 30 minutes that second half. So Leonard and Doyle held things together really well. He used the ball quite well when he had it. And obviously, as you said, tops it off with that really good goal. It was hard for those players in that second 11, wasn't it? Because a lot of them were out of position. You've got Billy Burrell, who's a young lad playing at centre back alongside Christian Beedle. You've got Alfie Chang, who's a midfielder playing at left back. Taylor Gardner-Hickman again, midfielder at right back, then moves position into midfield. You've got George Hall, who probably is naturally a 10 playing wide right. You've got Brian Bateman, who's probably more of a striker playing wide left. So it was a lot of mix and match, but they did really well.
Yeah, indeed. We probably do need to talk about the one blot on the copybook. It was the goal, wasn't it? James Beedle, poor pass into midfield, which gets intercepted, and then the resultant shot wasn't exactly top corner either, was it?
Yeah, I don't want this to become a theme on the podcast, because last year it did feel like every other week it was the do we need to talk about Bailey Peacock-Farrell at the beginning of the season. And it was unfortunate, because we talked to him on the previous podcast saying when we watched him for England. Well, when we watched him for England, I did at least. You didn't, I did. When we watched him for England over the summer, the one thing I thought was really good about his game was those kind of bounce passes, those short passes into the midfielder, just making the angles and moving the ball and recycling it. And that was kind of where he got caught out against Sevilla. Just a poor pass. Didn't find its target, went straight to the Sevilla player, and it was by Gwilyn, I think, a really, really decent finish, but very avoidable. And we can't really be having that when the real stuff starts, can we?
No, indeed. And I'm actually going to be the voice of reason here a little bit. I'll take you back to a few years ago where Matthias Sarkic came on loan from Wolves, had a horror error in a pre-season friendly against Northampton, caught dwelling on the ball, trying to play out, just being too casual. And you're all sitting there thinking, oh no, what have Blues done here with this young goalkeeper? And then in half a season, Matty went on to perform brilliantly and win the Player of the Year award as a lone player. So, indeed, it is only pre-season, and let's make that absolutely clear. And if Beedle takes that as a right, I need to be a bit sharper, I can't play that pass, or, can learn from that, then everyone moves on happily. Absolutely. The players not involved. Actually, have we discussed what was different and what wasn't different? That's next on the running order.
Yeah. I mean,
anything else you want to do with that? Any changes?
There were a lot of similarities. There are a couple of things that stood out to me, and I don't know whether it's because of opposition, but the impression I got afterwards was that Blues had treated it like a normal game. They'd done their kind of research as they normally would. Chris Davies had probably had them sit in 45-hour analysis meetings, telling them what Sevilla were going to do and all this stuff. So it was obviously very, very professional. And just one thing that I noticed, I thought Peck obviously always drifts towards the left anyway, doesn't he, naturally, because that's where he plays. But a lot of last season, maybe because of the strength of the opposition, Awata was kind of holding midfield on his own, and Peck was given a lot of freedom to roam. He would normally end up on the left, but he could go on the right and whatever. I thought he was a lot deeper against Sevilla. He spent a lot of the first half. Yes, he did drift towards the left on occasions to link with Anderson, but he spent a lot of the first half quite tight to Awata. He would drop into the anchor position and collect the ball from the goalkeeper and two centre-backs. So maybe that was just a Sevilla thing. But I guess it's something we'll see as well this season when Blues are playing better opposition, that Peck won't always be given plenty of freedom to roam and do whatever he wants, because Blues are probably going to need a better insurance policy.
Yeah, indeed. Whether you can just leave Awata to plug all the holes in front of the back four, is a call that they'll probably make on a match-by-match basis, won't they, I'd have thought. Players not involved, start us off with Kyogo. He obviously didn't play at all.
Yeah, he joined up a little bit late for the Portugal camp, so he's, again, not as far into pre-season as the Blues players were. I think he did a little bit with Rennes before moving. Chris Davies said afterwards that he should be involved at some stage this week, and obviously Blues have got technically 3 friendlies on 2 different days this week, so I'm sure we'll see him make his debut this week.
And Kanye Fujimoto as well, not involved. He's still got a knock, hasn't he, Chris Davies revealed?
Yeah, so we knew he was injured from the end of last season with a knee issue, and that hasn't quite cleared up. So Davies said around a few weeks before he starts training, and then, so you're probably looking at end of pre-season, aren't you, before we see him?
Yeah, indeed. But there's no actual concern about Fujimoto's, medium and long-term future, is there? Obviously, it's just the knock. Yeah,
exactly.
Damari Gray wasn't there. Expecting him this week, aren't we?
Yeah, extra time off because he was playing for Jamaica until right to the end of June. Saudi season with Al Ettifaq finished quite late as well, so he just got extra time off.
Yeah, and Peacock, Farrell, Sanderson, Roberts, Alphonse Samsted and Emil Hansen all omitted. They seem to be in a similar position, which might be in terms of Blues looking for another stage in their careers, shall we put it?
Yeah, in the case of Peacock, Farrell, Roberts and Sanderson, I mean, we obviously know they are surplus to requirements and will be moving on. Where I'm not sure yet, but that will obviously happen. Samsted and Hansen, unfortunate really. Blues have signed 2 players, arguably 2 better players to play in their positions this season. So they've now got Samsted's got Laird and Asai Samuel ahead of him, and Hansen has got Anderson and Damari Gray ahead of him. So the writing's pretty much on the wall for the pair of them.
Yeah, indeed. One fresh transfer line which emerged over the weekend was regarding Wolves forward Hwang Hee-Chan, or Hee-Chan Huang, sorry. What can you tell us about that? Because it's, supporters will probably remember him from having a real impact a couple of seasons ago in the Premier League, less impact last season.
Yeah, I've watched a fair bit of his time in the Premier League, obviously in a previous job. So I like him. I think he fit Blues like an absolute glove. Yeah. He can play as a 9, can play off the right, can play off the left, would be very good as an inside 10 as well. So excellent finisher, high percentage finisher, scores probably more than he should, I think, in his Wolves career. Didn't score that many last season, but didn't have many chances. Would be a good signing, but I'm told from both sides that financially it doesn't seem viable. He obviously only signed a new contract with Wolves in December 23, midway through a really good season that he was having. And they are Premier League terms, and it would also be a big transfer. They rejected £21 million from Marseille for him last summer. They obviously wouldn't expect that this year, but it would still be too big a deal, I think, for Blues in the Championship, even with the money they have been spending over the last couple of years under Knighthead. This, for a player of 29, the wages particularly involved would be too high, we're told.
After the transfer flurry, the 6 signings in 6 days or whatever it was, plus Neumann coming in, just feel a little bit like now, brilliant, they've done their business early, but now it feels like it's about moving pieces around and making spaces in squads and budgets and things like that, doesn't it now?
Yeah, you know me, I'm obsessed with the EFL squad list and fitting players into it. And you get a 25-man squad. Blues have maxed out and more theirs with their signings so far this summer. I think they've got 29 players who would count as senior. So that means you've got to lose at least 4, haven't you? So it's probably going to be more than that as well. All the players you mentioned earlier, Pigott, Farrell, Sanderson, Tyler Roberts, Samstead, Hansen. You hope that they can find homes for these players quite quickly and not have it drag out, because then you have the situation where Chris Davies will want to work with the group that he's got and won't want a group of 30. And you'll have players, inevitably training further down or on their own.
Yeah, which no one wants at all for any of those players, or indeed just the general vibe around the place. Exactly. One player that has gone is Manny Longelo. Never really happened for him, did it, at Blues? I know I sort of championed his traits rather than his performances when he came on. A good athlete, but clearly not a championship-ready fullback, and not really a championship-ready wing-back with a team that doesn't play with wing-backs either. What would you say about Longelo?
Yeah, I think my sample size of Longelo is probably smaller than yours, because I didn't see him an awful lot. You had the first half of the 22-23 season, didn't you? Yeah. I will just remember the final 2 games under John Eustace where Longelo started because Buchanan was injured against Huddersfield and West Brom. And he looked a competent championship left back. I think there's definitely a player in there, as we've said on the podcast before. Whether he can find it consistently, I'm not sure. That's obviously going to be down to him. But Motherwell looks like a decent enough move, because it puts him in a platform to potentially come back over to England if he does well. So good luck to him.
Yeah, indeed. Important not to be too harsh on a young lad that came from West Ham, that didn't spend a huge amount of money on him. He did a job for Blues, and as you say, he has got some he's a good athlete, some physical qualities, and it's just someone to unlock those in the right environment, in the right team, which maximise those. And I think he'll go on and have a career, maybe not as at the top end of the Championship, but certainly something there. This week, what are we expecting, Alex? As you mentioned, 3 games in the next sort of 5 or 6 days. Obviously, the Burton and the Crewe game played on the same day on Saturday.
Yeah, so they've got, again, because they've got such a massive squad, they're having to have 2 double headers, aren't they, this Saturday and next Saturday. Yeah. Crewe and Burton have no idea where the stronger 11 will be going, or if there will indeed be a stronger 11, or whether Chris Davies will just mix and match. You'd presume for some kind of continuity will be 1-11 that he sees more first team and 1-11 that he sees more subs and squad players. But yeah, Solihull Moors first on Wednesday. Solihull Moors was quite fun last year, wasn't it, with a 3-0 We've got to see a lot of the new signings. So again, it'll be the same this year, and it will see a lot of the new signings. I don't think we'll see Demarai Gray as it's so early into his pre-season. You think they give him a little bit longer. But Kyogo maybe, as he's had a few more days. So yeah, hopefully we see a couple more of the new signings, or at least one more.
Yeah, indeed. The game with Solihull Moors is always good because it's so intimate, isn't it? You know, the players and the fans mingle, and it is what's becoming a bit of a tradition, but it's quite a nice pre-season friendly, that one. And as you say, there'll be two squads divided. How we don't know on Saturday.
I was going to say Blues won it because it's the Arthur Cup, isn't it? Blues won it every year. It's been 3. Is it 3 years? 3 or 4 years?
Yeah,
they've won it the last 2.
Yeah, I can't remember Blues having not won there. I remember, you've put on the running order. Happy Knighthead Day. Obviously, July the 13th was the 2nd anniversary of them taking over at Birmingham City, and I liked your piece. You refound the old the open letter that we were given from Tom Wagner. Making promises, 6 promises to Blues supporters, didn't they? It was and you went through them one by one, and you can't really do anything other than give them ticks and gold stars, really, can you?
No, it's quite funny, isn't it? Really, because you expect to kind of get those letters and be able to, rip it to pieces within a couple of years. That you're going to be like, oh, you haven't done this, but they've fair play. They've done absolutely everything on the list, and probably a little bit more as well. So. The relegation felt like a big setback at the time, but it's been little more than a minor hiccup, hasn't it, I suppose, in the long-term journey, and Blues are racing towards the Premier League.
Oh, he's gone there already. Yeah, exactly. Not even
one win over Sevilla, and I've gone.
As you say, two years of huge investment. And some remarkable plans still to come. What have you liked most, Alex? Pick one thing.
Just, I suppose, it's hard to overlook the sports quarter, isn't it, when you're talking those sums of money of £3 billion or whatever. But probably the fact that they've still continued to invest in the existing infrastructure. Like, I mean, I've been lucky enough to go around St Andrews last year after they made all the changes there, and Wast Hills, or the Knighthead Performance Centre more recently, and see kind of what they've done with that place. And, my memories of Wast Hills were literally filling in for you when Harry Redknapp would sit on a table with a cloth over it. The improvement is absolutely enormous. So they've invested in every area of the football club. It will clearly pay dividends long term. For example, the training ground, the academy, if Blues produce one more Jordan James worth over £5 million, then that's the £5 million investment they put into Wast Hills this summer, or over the last 12 months, paid for. So these things are for themselves. You find a Jude Bellingham, you've got way more than that. So just to get the continued investment in the infrastructure, not just St Andrews as well. The way it looks now is brilliant compared to what it was 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. The options you've got, you turn up at the main stand on a Saturday, and the place is absolutely heaving with fans for the fan park around the other side as well is really busy. So just everything in terms of that side of the club has just improved immeasurably now.
Obviously, the answer to this question is the investment, the money they've put in, isn't it? Because that's the key factor behind everything that's happened that's been positive. But accepting that, I think I would say just the way they've made people want to become part of Birmingham City again. The team's gone down into League One, and the stadium's full every week, and there's fireworks going off every week, and every home match, albeit against Stevenage and Mansfield and teams like that, less heralded teams. Every match feels like a real occasion. All of a sudden there's a season ticket waiting list. It's going to be difficult to get into home games at Blues, you'd think, for certain matches. Just the way they've created a product that people want. And yes, it's been done with investment and it's been done with money, but it's not just that as well. They, as I say, there's probably better business language to use around this, but they've just generated a product that people want to have, want to be part of. You look at look at the sort of the traditional shirts or the vintage shirts, I thought that was just one tiny little masterstroke. It creates a revenue stream, but it also recognises something from the past as well, and that it's not all new and shiny. Just little things like that all come together to make blues something that people want to be part of, and that they can sell, not just in Birmingham or England, but all over the world. It's been a masterpiece, that has, for me. The way they've turned the perception of Birmingham around, and there probably wasn't a perception of Birmingham in the USA, particularly until the last couple of years. So it is a different club, whilst still hanging on, fairly convincingly hanging on to the old club as well, isn't it? There will be changes that some people will bridle at, and and seeing Tom Brady talk about football, California meeting Small Heath will never not be slightly uncomfortable for some people, but it'll be really attractive for so many more. So yeah, I'm rambling now, but it's that rebirth of the football club for me.
Again, that's one of the points, isn't it? They've kind of stayed true to what Birmingham City is, whilst trying to enhance it and bring all these massive commercial partners on board. So
it's a difficult balance, isn't it? Because you are going to upset a few traditionalists on your way, and there's been a little bit of argy-bargy about the increase in season ticket prices not this season but last season. So it is a difficult balance, but they seem to be taking the vast majority of people with them. Yeah,
massively. Well, as you said about the season ticket waiting list, that kind of says that, doesn't it? To have, I think it's like 12,000 people still on a season ticket waiting list is unheard of. Blues, would have struggled. Well, they did have 12,000 season tickets, did they, in the 23-24 season? I think it was around the 10 mark. So, to have that is incredible.
Yeah, indeed. And the even more remarkable thing is, this is just the start of it. If the sports quarter when the sports quarter, turns from plans into actual buildings and concrete, and we are just scratching the surface, which is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Should we wrap it up there?
I think so, yeah. Because I did put what could Knighthead do to make things better, but it's probably a bit unfair to throw anything out there. I'm not sure we could throw anything out there really based on what's in the last 2 years.
It's just the fulfilment of those plans that we've talked about, isn't it? The 60,000 seater stadium and the sports quarter and the other venues that are going to be on that patch, and they're in for it. They're invested in it. Obviously, if there is a slight concern, it's that can they take the other decision makers, the council and the transport authorities, can they take them all with them at the speed that they want to go? Some of the things that are less in their control, and they just can't throw money at and say, this is sorted now. But yeah, just if they carry on at the pace that they've been going, it's going to be just a miracle, isn't it, in that side of Birmingham, east side of Birmingham.
Yeah, and the Premier League as well. That's one thing they can do, get Blues to the Premier League. But they look like they're doing making a good fist of that already in pre-season. So.
Yeah, indeed. Brilliant. Right, let's wrap it up there. Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Alex, for your time. It's a big keep right on from both of us.